At People's Capital Group, we help you invest in real estate. Build your wealth by owning professionally managed apartment buildings in the northern New Jersey market. We want to show you how owning real estate is attainable, even for the busy professionals that don't have the time or experience investing in real estate. Now, we only work with select people who are serious about building wealth. So find out if you qualify at peoplescapitalgroup.com. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, it's AaronFragnito with the Passive Cash Flow Podcast. We have a new episode today. I'm actually going to talk about something we're very excited about, a new private offering from People's Capital Group. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are offering a new exclusive offering to all of our qualified investors. Now, again, this is not a solicitation for funds, tax advice, or legal advice. I'm going to talk about a new building we're purchasing in Bayonne and how qualified investors are able to participate in that building and reap the benefits of owning real estate without having to do the heavy lifting behind the scenes. So this episode is going to be a short episode here. We're going to break into this building we're purchasing, why we're buying this building, and how passive investors are going to benefit by participating in this acquisition here on the Passive Cash Flow Podcast. Well, thanks a lot for joining us. And by the way, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or other podcast platforms there. Make sure you hit the like button as well so we show up in your feed. And if you haven't subscribed to us or left us a review, please leave us a review. We're always open to new topics you can suggest, new guests as well, and always building our podcast and the messages we're giving out to our investors here. You can always get more content on our website, peoplescapitalgroup.com. But today I want to talk about a new building we're buying and why we're buying this building and how we're going to structure this with passive investors. So we're buying a 21-unit apartment complex in Bayonne, New Jersey. Now, for those of you that don't know about Bayonne, New Jersey, it's a city below Jersey City, New Jersey. So the coast goes here in Jersey. It goes Hoboken is our highest priced, most desirable location in Hudson County. Then next would be Jersey City. Jersey City is a very large city in Hudson County. It's further down the coast there. And below Jersey City comes Bayonne. They're building a ferry to go from Bayonne directly into Manhattan. Right now, you can take a light rail from Bayonne to Manhattan in about 30 minutes. The ferry is going to allow for about a 20-minute commute, which will bring it down to comparable locations such as Brooklyn, the Bronx, similar to Hoboken as well, and allow people to commute into the city very easily. Generally, when we see this type of infrastructure put in place, and by the way, the ferry is approved, it's being built, it's going to be ready ideally next year. When we see this type of infrastructure put in place, whether it's a train line or a ferry or a bridge or a hospital, something like that, jobs tend to come, property values tend to grow, and demand for housing in that location tends to stay strong and grow. So we do expect Bayonne to continue growing in value somewhat, but we're very conservative on our projections of rent growth, property growth, inflation, and our other projections out there. We really are very, very conservative on that, and we always are, and that's why we tend to underpromise and overdeliver, in reality doing much better than our initial targets to investors. So that's always good to see, and of course that makes a happy investor as well. So here with this property, we're very conservative with our projections, but rent is actually about 35% below market value. That means when we buy the property, if rent stops growing today, we can still increase rent on the property by 35% and therefore increase the value of the property ideally by roughly 35% or more really. So that allows us to force equity into the building, force value into the building, and produce more cash flow from the property, increase the value exponentially, and therefore increase our investors' equity. Now we'll harvest that equity growth with a cash out refinance, ideally about 3 to 4 years into the project. So our investors would expect about half of their investment back at that cash out refinance, generally 3 to 4 years into the project. Recently, we're getting there much faster though, but of course we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So once we purchase the property for a discounted price, of course, we're going to renovate the units, remove non-paying tenants or non-cooperative tenants, renovate vacant units, and lease them up for as much as we can rent for to quality tenants on fair market value, right, on the open market. One of our favorite things about Bayonne is that it's actually pretty landlord friendly compared to neighboring cities. Okay. When someone moves out in Bayonne, there's 100% vacancy decontrol. That means I can release that unit once renovated for as much as market will bear. I don't have to go to the rent control board and get a fraction of the amount I've invested in the property and prove my renovations and wait for the bureaucrats to decide what I can increase rent by, like you have to do in Jersey City or Hoboken. Heck, in Jersey City or Hoboken, sometimes you can't even increase rent even after renovations. It's crazy. There's no vacancy decontrol. So in Bayonne, it's much more landlord friendly. And when a tenant moves out, I can renovate that unit and lease it for top dollar, not having to have to go in front of the rent control board. So therefore, it's a much more landlord friendly city. And that's one thing we really like about Bayonne as well. This property in particular is very well maintained. So the building itself is actually a 40-year-old owned property by family owned for 40 years, well maintained, kind of your classic worn out landlord, forgot to raise the rent for the last 10 years, but put money back into the building, maintained it well. It's a beautiful pre-war style building with a beautiful lobby and nice entranceway. If you're on our email list, you've probably seen a few pictures of it. If you're not, go to peoplescapitalgroup.com and click register to invest to get on that email list and get access to these offerings. But if you've already seen the offering there or you poked at it and looked around, it's a beautiful building, right? Beautiful pre-war building, beautiful lobby, very well kept, very clean. A lot cleaner and a lot less deferred maintenance, quite frankly, than a lot of the buildings we buy, right? Usually we're buying buildings that are kind of messy, a little more deferred maintenance, deferred management. They just need more work overall. And this building is a little bit more turnkey, which just rents very far below market value. It's kind of a perfect type of deal for us, right? The amount of renovation needed is strictly cosmetic. It's a very well-maintained building. It looks good. And again, there's only cosmetic renovations to do to get at least for top dollar. That combination with the location being 10 minutes to a light rail, 3-block walk to the park and the water there. Bayonne itself being an up-and-coming city with a lot of growth there and a lot of growth potential. The new ferry coming in. And then the building itself just being a clean building, well-maintained, rents below market value, but not like completely mismanaged. See, sometimes we'll buy buildings where no one's paying rent, or the building's just in complete disrepair, or the seller told us one thing, but actually collections are way off, or the leases are way off, or we did our inspection of the physical inspection of the property, and the inspector came back with a bunch of issues and red flags. So we run into that all the time. In fact, we just had to cancel a transaction because of that. When we did our due diligence, we found a lot of issues and we had to cancel the transaction. And that's part of our job, to protect our investors' capital and make sure we're not getting into a poor investment. And when we find problems in our due diligence, red flags, as I have an article on our website, 7 red flags for passive investors. But when we find red flags when we're doing our due diligence on properties, we try to correct them. We try to negotiate a better price with the seller. We try to figure out solutions. But if there can't be a solution found and the seller's not negotiable on a retrade, then we tend to just move on, cut our losses, and move on to a better opportunity. And that's what we've done here in Bayonne, finding a much better opportunity than the last property we were buying and recognizing that, hey, this is a much better deal. We found it as an off-market listing. The broker said, hey, you have 24 hours to respond to this listing. No one else is going to see it for this time period. If you can get back to me in 24 hours and give me this price, the deal is yours. So we did our due diligence. We did it quickly. We did it effectively. We contacted the broker back. We tried to get a better price and eventually settled on the price the broker was looking for to get the deal done, which was still a great price. So the building itself, it's a clean building. It's well maintained. The rents are about 35% below market value, which means if rent stops growing today in Hudson County, which I don't think is very likely, but we do target slow growth of rents, much slower than what we're actually seeing right now. We still can increase the property value by 35% or more. So that's a lot of forced equity right there for the building that allows us to force equity for our investors into the building, force the value of the building up, create more cash flow, allow for a cash out refinance, which allows our investors to harvest that equity growth over time. And that's the main strategy here at People's Capital Group. Buy, renovate, refinance apartment buildings. Try to get back about half of our investors' capital within the first 3 to 4 years. Build a quarterly cash flow checks to our investors as well. and just build their wealth exponentially, help them build legacy wealth for their family. So that's our main goal. This building, again, is very clean building, very nicely maintained. Really looking forward to getting in and doing our renovations and moving the rent up on the building. There are a couple vacancies to start, so we can kind of start swinging right there with those vacant units. And just the location as well. Getting into Bayonne, New Jersey, I'm excited to invest in a high demand city like Bayonne, right near the water. Hudson County itself, such a great, high desirable county there. I'm not too worried about finding quality tenants. There's a ton of them seeking to lease for high prices in Bayonne and Hudson County in general. So the hardest part is finding a great deal. We did that. We have a great deal under contract, and people are going crazy for it. So our investors love the opportunity. High demand city, clean building, perfect opportunity for our investor group. Perfect opportunity for our infrastructure here at People's Capital Group, a nice fit to our portfolio and our strengths here as a company. So we're filling up very quickly on those spots. There are limited spots for investors. We can only fit so many into the opportunity, and those are filling up pretty quickly. So if you haven't been qualified yet, go to peoplescapitalgroup.com, click the button that says register to invest. That button's going to prompt you to fill out a basic qualification form, and then schedule a call with me, AaronFragnito. We're going to jump on that discovery call together once you schedule it. I'm going to ask you about your investment goals, talk to you about what we're doing on our next opportunities here, and how that experience would work for investors, the type of returns you would expect to make, how those returns would be paid out to you as a passive investor, and what your responsibilities would be as a passive investor, and the process to get qualified and started with us. So that's all discussed and explained on our discovery call. That's the first step. We have to do that discovery call for you to get qualified as a passive investor and to qualify you and allow you to invest with People's Capital Group. So go to our website, peoplescapitalgroup.com, click that button, register to invest. Let's connect. Let's get you in possibly on this opportunity or something upcoming that's equally as good. And we'll make sure to qualify you as quickly as possible and show you all the information we have going on here and see if this is a fit for your investment goals. And hopefully it is. Hopefully we can build our wealth together exponentially for years to come in high demand New Jersey real estate. My name is AaronFragnito. Thanks for joining us here on the Passive Cashflow podcast, co-founder of People's Capital Group. Check out our website, peoplescapitalgroup.com, for weekly blogs and weekly podcast episodes. And if you're listening to us on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify or YouTube, make sure to click that subscribe button and like button as well so we can stay in your feed there and stay connected with future content. Thanks a lot for listening. I hope to connect on that discovery call and start building our wealth together. Have a good day.